What's up, guys? Strictly Street here, and this is how we're gonna start off. Y'all are probably thinking, what are you wearing? I got a cat sweater on. Know why? Because today's Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope y'all having wonderful holidays, and I hope y'all are spending it with y'all's loved ones and having an overall good time. So as y'all can see, today I am reviewing the 2010 BMW 135i, and so it's a 2010. So this is the very last year of the N54 motor. So that's a twin turbo, not the twin scroll, but a twin turbo, 3-liter, straight 6. Phenomenal engine, turbos build boost extremely quickly. So it's just an awesome car. In the front, as y'all can see, we have 6-piston Brembo brake calipers all around, black kidney grills. The other front caliper, 6-piston Brembo, M Sport package, as you can tell by the wheels. So here's a side shot of the car. Now in the back we have 4-piston Brembos. So 6 pistons in the front, 4 in the back. As you can see, we got the black trim, so it's not chrome. We got blacked out trim, black around the mirrors. Got the black kidney grills in the front. This spoiler, it comes red, so it comes body color from the factory, but I painted mine black to tie in with the other black accents on the car. Here's a rear shot of the vehicle. Doesn't look bad from the back. Actually looks a little aggressive. Now I do have wider tires than normal. They're still not very wide. I believe stock is 245s. And I have 255s on the back. Now, from what I read on BMW forums, if you go to 265 or bigger, you're gonna have rubbing issues. So that's why I got 255s. We have burnt exhaust tips. Now the whole car is extremely dirty on the outside, so I apologize. So the exhaust tips don't look near as good as they would if they were clean. But when they're clean, they look phenomenal. Let's do a side shot from the other side. So as y'all can see, the car doesn't look so bad from the side and from the back. But the front is what I personally don't like. See, it just kind of chops off. So I don't really like that. But I didn't buy this car for looks. I bought it because of the motor and the tunability of the car. So I mean, you could bump 100 horsepower pretty easily with some simple mods. Black kidney grills. So here's a look at the engine bay. I'm sorry that the engine cover's kind of ugly. Tried to paint it myself, didn't come out the best. Got your air box. Aftermarket charge pipe with a blow-off valve. So y'all will hear that in the video. It's going to sound pretty sweet. And y'all will also hear it when I do the exhaust clip. Then you got your coolant reservoir right there. So a pretty typical engine bay, minus the blow-off valve. That's not really typical, but it's gonna sound delightful. Let's jump into the interior. Okay, so as far as the interior of the car, I mean, it's typical BMW for this generation, and the E80 and the E90 generation vehicles. Leather everywhere, pretty much. Nice interior for the time. As you can see, we got the M Sport package. You can see right there on the door sills. The steering wheel, M Sport steering wheel with the paddles. Pretty nice interior, I must say. Back seat, just as nice. And actually pretty spacious. I'll show y'all in one sec how spacious it is. Okay. So, storage space. You have a pouch on the side of the door with 3 different little compartments. So, pretty decent storage space. And then, same thing on the other side. You have a glove box. And then you also have this little compartment right here in your armrest, which is not huge, but it's big enough to put a phone in, a wallet. As y'all can see, I got my wallet in there. And then you have 2 cup holders. And let's go ahead and so you can see we got 2 cup holders. Got another little area you could probably set like a water bottle or something in, a USB jack, and an auxiliary jack. And then you have a tray up front, right in front of your shifter or your gear lever, whatever you want to call it. I use it for change and for my little Cinti deal. Okay. And then let's go to the back, check out the trunk space. Trunk space is pretty good. I'd say it's real fitting for the overall size of the car. It's not huge, but I mean, this car in general is not big whatsoever. So trunk space is decent. I would say you could probably fit probably 2 normal size suitcases, not the jumbo size, but you could probably get 2 normal size suitcases in here. Okay, then we'll see the little other pouch on the other side. Same size as the other. Now, here's the back. As y'all can see, there's a little tray in the middle. So that also comes in handy. So let's hop in the back. So, I'm climbing in the back here. Lots of room. There's a lot of room back here. I've had pretty big people in the back seat. Now, I've had people that are probably 6 foot, 6'2". So I've had some big people that can fit back here. I don't want to say super comfortably, but their knees weren't hitting the seat. So you could definitely fit people in here. And other than that, I mean, being that there's this tray right here, you can't sit 3 people back here. But I think that's a good thing, honestly, because if you try to put 3 people back here, it would just be way too tight. But for 2 people, there's plenty of room. Alright, so let's get an exhaust clip for you guys. Alright, so that was not a cold start. The car is warm. I'm not gonna rev a cold car. But I know y'all are probably thinking that can't be stock. That's pretty loud. And it is not. So this car has VRSF catless downpipes. It has basically a straight pipe exhaust completely. The car does not have any cats, no catalytic converters. It does have a small muffler, no resonator, has a resonator delete, no secondary cats, nothing like that. So it's relatively straight pipe minus the small Cherry Bomb Extreme muffler that is on the exhaust. I think it sounds phenomenal. Blow-off valve adds to the great sound. So why don't we go for a drive? Alright, so we are in the interior. First thing I noticed, the seats are pretty comfortable. So they are leather, but you know how sometimes with leather seats, you know, they can be real hard. Not a very forgiving seat. These seats are the opposite. They are pretty soft. They're extremely comfortable. I've done road trips in this car from Texas to Missouri and no back problems whatsoever. And I have a bad back, honestly, so that's really impressive that the seats didn't hurt my back through that long trip. So, let's go for a drive. So as I stated, this car does have catless downpipes. That's going to bump up the power even without a tune. Stock horsepower is 300 horsepower to the crank, and 300 pound-feet of torque. Now, honestly, I think that's underrated. I honestly think a stock M54 might make a little bit more than that, maybe 300 wheel. And this car does have VRSF catless downpipes, so I honestly think this car, even with the stock tune, is probably running 310 to 330 horsepower to the wheels. So it's pretty quick. And now another thing about this car that is definitely worth mentioning, so it is twin turbo. Now when you think of a turbo, you're gonna think turbo lag. I mean, it's only appropriate to think that, right? Well, not really with this car, and that's one thing that's extremely impressive about it. So it is twin turbo, but there's not much lag. Your turbos in this car, they're really small, but they spool so quickly that it's almost like a naturally aspirated motor. Now, the power, the turbo power that you really get boost is more low-end RPM. Now, I know most of y'all may think, oh, turbos, it's going to be more top-end power. So the higher RPM, that's when you're going to start building boost. Not with this car. You have built max boost by 3,500 RPM. And you got a 7,000 RPM red line. So you're almost getting full power right away, almost like an electric car. So this car from a dead stop is an absolute monster. It's a rocket from a dead stop. That's what makes this car fun to race from a dig. Now, the power, you basically from a dead stop, you get hit with the power immediately. But then once you get past about 4,000 RPM, it's really hard to explain, but it kind of falls off, but stays constant. So it's like the power hit, it hits you, it falls off a little bit, but then stays constant to red line. So you don't really get that kick of power unless you're from a dead stop. If you're already at a higher RPM, yes, you're going to have your max boost, but you're not going to get that kick of power. So let's turn traction control off, because that's the funnest way to drive this car, is no traction control on. So put it in drive, and let's get moving. Y'all hear that blow-off valve? I love that sound. That sound never gets old. I've had this car since February, and yeah, that sound does not get old. It's amazing. So I bought this car bone stock, all the aftermarket stuff I've done since I've owned it, and it definitely wakes up the car. This car has a lot of potential. Alright, so we're going to turn out to this larger road, and we're going to do an acceleration from a dead stop. Put it in sport, let it shift itself. Now, as y'all can just watch by my reaction, because the launch never gets old. Build the RPMs a little bit, let's go. Oh, spinning. That's 80. Okay, so we absolutely roasted the tires in first gear. Tons of white smoke from the tires. It was the most I've ever seen, honestly. I've never seen that much tire smoke from these tires. Now, the tires I'm running right now are Michelin Pilot Supersport AS3s. So, good tires. They are good performance tires. And still, this car just does not have enough rubber to put the power down in first gear, even, you know, on the stock tune. So, one thing I wish BMW would have done was basically maybe make the fenders go out a little bit wider so you could run a little bit wider tire. I think this car needs 285s. Honestly, it really needs 285s. And I say, I mean, basically if you do any type of tuning to the car, you're going to have to run radials. You're going to have to run drag radials in order to get decent traction at first if you're doing any type of racing from a dead stop. Okay, second thing I noticed, the steering. So this is the legendary BMW hydraulic steering. They don't have this type of steering anymore. Now it's electric steering or electronically assisted. This steering is phenomenal. The car goes wherever you want it to go. So we're taking this curve. This steering inspires so much confidence that it's just ridiculous. I feel like somebody that has never driven a car before can hop in this car and be comfortable. That's how good the steering is. It is absolutely phenomenal. Okay, now, in turns, there is a little bit of body roll. It's not ridiculous, but it's not the best. So the suspension is not the best. It could be improved. Now, when I would have to think of a car similar to this with better suspension, immediately I think of the M2, which is basically the same car, but a more performance-oriented version. So the M2, I guarantee you, is going to be a phenomenal vehicle. I can't wait to drive one. I think it's going to put a massive smile on my face. Okay, so what is the gas mileage like on a car like this? Gas mileage isn't bad. I would say probably about 20 mpg city and about 25 highway. So gas mileage is not bad. Now, if you're just getting on it all the time, of course the gas mileage is not going to be great. But I mean, if you drive it, you know, kind of easily, you know, like on a road trip or something, and try to get the maximum mileage out of it, you're going to get pretty good gas mileage. So let's go down into manual mode. Let's do a little pull right here. Second gear pull from 40. Yeah, this car pulls pretty good. For a little car, this thing is awesome. I absolutely love it. Like, it pulls great. Got another curve coming up. We're gonna hit this curve a little harder than the last ones. Handles it no problem. No problem. Man, this is a phenomenal car. It really is. Now, these cars are not that expensive. I bought this car for about $15,000 from a dealer out the door. So that's after tax, title, and license and all that good stuff. So if you want a car that you can easily make really fast, a 135 or a 335 or even a 535, 2007 to 2010 with the N54 motor. Huge bang for the buck, amazing bargain. Like, you're getting an outrageous amount of performance for not that much money. And with a simple tune, either MHD, Cobb, or JB4, and downpipes, you're making good power, and this car will turn into a rocket. So I definitely, if you're in the market for a car and you want something that you can basically make it where it's respectable, you want a respectable car, 135 or a 335 is definitely the way to go. It's a phenomenal deal. And the steering, best steering, honestly, that I've ever had in a vehicle, best steering that I've ever felt in a vehicle. So it's the best in any vehicle that I've ever driven. And then, I mean, other than that, it's real simple. Like, there's not really a whole lot going on in this car. It's pretty plain. You just got your basic buttons, and that's about it. So I love how simple it is. You don't have to worry about jumping into a car and not knowing how to work it because there's just so many buttons or anything like that. It's extremely simple to use. Everything is really self-explanatory, and I mean, it's a car that you can basically jump in and be comfortable with all around. Not only like performance inspired, like so by the steering and the power and all that good stuff, but this car is extremely user friendly. So I mean, I really like this car. I really do. Like, it's been a great car to me, and I just can't, like, it never gets old smashing the gas in this thing. It never gets old. And another thing about this car is that the pull, so like when you get on it, the pull is pretty much the same in every gear. And And that's one thing that's different compared to any other vehicle that I've driven so far. Even in 6th gear, 5th gear, like it doesn't feel like it's real weak. Like it just keeps pulling. It reminds me kind of like a train. Like it just pulls and pulls and pulls and pulls. It's just crazy. Now, we don't have enough road around here to go into 5th and 6th gear, so I can't really demonstrate that for you guys. But take my word for it, because it really does. The car just keeps pulling. I've raced this car in Mexico, and there's been many times where I've banged it off the limiter, the speed limiter at 155. That's what this vehicle's limited at, and it has plenty left in it. It really does. This car will do about 140 in 5th gear, so I mean it's not even in its last gear yet. So it's a great car. It does have top end power. As far as like the higher gears go, like you don't have to worry about going into a higher gear and the car kind of falling on its face, because it's not going to. The car's just going to keep pulling. So it's a phenomenal car. Now another thing, I think what BMW was trying to go for with this car was a small, compact car that's just fun to drive. A simple car that's fun to drive. And they nailed it. They really did nail it. I think the looks could be a little bit better. But as far as a simple car that's fun to drive, this is it. It really is. And you don't really get a cheap feel from this car's interior. Now compared to a lot of other BMWs, okay, it may seem kind of cheap compared to a 3 Series, a 5 Series, a 7 Series. But I mean, that's to be expected. It's a 1 Series. They weren't going for luxury with this car. So there are some plastic pieces. There's some plastic right here on the dash, as y'all can hear as I tap on it. But I mean, it's still plenty nice. It really is. I think the 335, I think if you want a little bit more luxurious, a little bit nicer car with the same motor, 335 or a 535. But if you want the lightest possible version, and don't really care about luxury so much, the 1 Series is the way to go. Absolutely. So visibility, what is visibility like out of this car? Visibility is good. The mirrors are pretty big. I think they're a little bit too big. I think they're kind of ugly. But as far as functionality of the mirrors, they're great. I mean, you can see a lot out of the rear. Out of the rear view mirror, you got lots of visibility as well. So you can see really good out of the rear view mirror. The front, and this is one thing I love about all BMWs, or at least the 1 Series and 3 Series. You can see, it's almost like you can see the road right in front of you. That's one thing I really love. A lot of these other sports cars, they got long hoods where, I mean, you can't really see, you know, like it's kind of sketchy driving them, honestly. But this thing, you feel so confident in every aspect when you're driving this car, and I absolutely love it. So now let's go over some flaws, because this car definitely has its flaws. And I don't want y'all to think that I'm sugarcoating everything about this car just simply because it's my car, because this car definitely has imperfections. Let's do another acceleration real quick. 60. Okay, we'll let off right there. Not gonna say what the speed was, but this thing moves. This thing does move. Okay, flaws. The plastic on the front, so where the radio is, and the cup holders, that plastic scratches up very, very easily. And when it does get scratched up, it looks horrible. So I think they should have used a different material that holds up a little bit better. Another thing, the wood trim. I don't like the wood trim in this vehicle. While it is a very nice wood trim, I think it's too luxurious for the rest of the car. This is not a luxurious car whatsoever. So I think they should have used like carbon fiber or even the brushed aluminum look. Okay, another thing, I wish this car had a little bit more storage space on the inside. but I mean, it is a compact car, so you can't really hate on the car because of that. It's overall just a small car, so I mean, whatever. Now the engine bay, that's another problem that I don't like. The engine bay is extremely crowded, and the N54 motor specifically, especially compared to the N55, which is basically the updated version of this motor, this motor is just hard to work on. Like, everything is so crammed in that little engine bay that it makes it hard to work on. So if you want to do aftermarket downpipes, it is a pain in the butt. Why? Because there's no room. You have to take off all these other parts just to get to the downpipes and get to the clamp that holds the downpipe to the turbo. So it's just a pain. There's just no space to work on this car really whatsoever. So you're constantly, if you want to work on the car, you're constantly having to take off other parts just to get to the part that you want to get to. Another thing, more problems with this car, the fuel system. So BMW does have a factory warranty up to 120,000 miles or 10 years for the high pressure fuel pump and the injectors, the fuel injectors. And I'm really glad they have that warranty because they're extremely faulty. They really are, and it's really frustrating having to deal with those issues. Now, originally there was no warranty, but so many people had these problems that they were basically forced to issue that warranty. And I did recently have the high pressure fuel pump replaced on my car. I have had one injector replaced under warranty. So they definitely are some kind of faulty fuel components. Another road noise. There's a decent amount of road noise in this car. When you think of BMW, you think of a luxurious brand. You think of a nice, comfortable, quiet ride, honestly. And this car is the opposite. You feel every bump, and there's a lot of road noise. If you got an aftermarket exhaust, you can hear it really easily from inside the car. So yeah, I think they probably could have improved on that a little bit. But I also think a little bit of that has to do with the tires. These tires are relatively thin. They're 40 millimeter sidewall on the front and 35 in the back. So they're not very thick tires. So I think that also plays a pretty big part in that. But I mean, other than that, if I had to rate this car in a 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a 7. It's a pretty solid car, and it's a phenomenal bargain as far as performance goes. And I mean, if you're a BMW fan or you're open to BMW as a brand and you want a car that's tunable, this is it. It really is. Some people even like to refer to this car as BMW's version of the Supra. And now some people may think that's a little extreme, but this car is extremely capable of making big power. Now, on the automatic transmission, no. On the manual transmission, there's people making 700 horsepower, you know, on the stock block and stock tranny. That's crazy. That's crazy, especially on something that is 300 horsepower stock. So to jump 400 horsepower and the car be able to handle it, that's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But that basically wraps up this video, guys. So I want to thank you for taking the time to stop and check this video out. I apologize for it being relatively long, but this car, there's just a lot of things to talk about on this car, and I wanted to make sure I hit a lot of the important things about this car. So I hope you like this video. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. If you like this video, you thought it was informative, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I guarantee you there's going to be more awesome content on the way. And I mean, once again, Merry Christmas. Go cop you a cat sweater. Peace.